Pictures, we're looking at Young and Naughty from 1984.
Do you remember younger days? Those wild, exciting ways? If you remember the days of old, you'll remember how fantasies hold away it used to be. Do you remember the nights of dreams? When you belong to me, the way it has to be. You'll stay with me to see. Young and naughty and running wild. Young and naughty, I'm just a child. Young and naughty won't let you be. Young and naughty, I'll set you free. Young and naughty.
Now, I'd like to say this was the first incest film we've discussed on the show, but it is not. That honor goes to The Farmer's Daughters. But here we are with another incest film, Young and Naughty. Now, this film from 1984, directed by Hal Freeman, has a pretty solid cast behind it, led by newcomer at the time, which was Nikki Charm. Now, this is credited as her first film. She would go on to have a pretty prominent career in the rest of the 80s and 90s. I believe she, either in the 90s or the 2000s, she had stepped away and then came back to the business. Truthfully, I'm not super familiar with her as an actress, but she has a hell of a presence in the film. She's a really solid lead here, which is, well, actually, before I get into that, let's actually talk about what the film is. So, Young and Naughty, 1984, we have Nikki Charm in the lead here, you know. She's lounging around the house. She's not doing a thing. I mean, you look at this house, and yeah, maybe it looks, you know, all organized, but Paul Thomas, her father, comes in and says, Nikki Charm, you gotta clean this place up. This place is ridiculous. You're sleeping out here. You're not wearing any underwear. What is going on? And so, like any rebellious kid, you know, they're not going to do what their father tells them. Instead, she just lays around on the couch, makes telephone calls, dreams up these wild scenarios, and the plot from there is pretty thin. Now, one of the things I wanted to say right off the bat, before anything else, and that being how the film is presented. Now, I watched this on a pretty low-quality version, so some things were a little hard to see in terms of any kind of picture quality or real texture. But the film, I could not tell for the life of me if this was shot on film or was shot on video, because some of the transitions in this looked like video, some of the movements looked like video. When they would zoom, it really looked like video, and this is 1984, mind you. So we're basically at the tail end right there, the very end of the golden age right here, when these were still being shot on film. It was difficult to see. I really couldn't find any information on it, because this isn't, at least from what I've seen, a super talked about film, at least not one in the general kind of consensus. So truthfully, I really don't know, but it looked like it had this sort of charm, this sort of, no pun intended, this sort of charm that made the picture quality uniquely its own. I couldn't tell which was which. And I should also say that when the film starts, you have this banging pop song, this solid kind of 80s pop song, the Young and Naughty Who, you know, it just makes you want to get up and dance. You know, put this on vinyl, man, I'll buy it. But interestingly enough, I believe this film, well, online it's sometimes referred to as Sweet and Naughty, and apparently later on, I mean, I don't know how true this actually is or not, but it would make sense if it was true. This was retitled under Sweet and Naughty, and because of the Tracy Lord scandal that was going on in '86, this was retitled to, you know, kind of clear the air. I mean, this is like not that far apart from each other, only a couple years. So them wanting to kind of play it safe, you know, I don't blame them for that. Nikki Charm was 18 at the time of filming. You know, I understand that some of these films, it can be kind of hard to tell. You know, some actresses look younger than they actually are. Some look older. So it can be difficult to tell. But here, I mean, it's more believable as she would be, you know, this kind of character. But allegedly, that was the reason behind it. Now, the thing is with this, I couldn't even find a poster for the film, man. I mean, the poster that you're looking at, the thumbnail right here, looks like from a later DVD release, so I don't know what the image is from. I don't know if there was a poster made for it, but at least at the time of this recording, I can't find it. So whether or not it actually was ever under the title Sweet and Naughty, I mean, I'm taking the internet's word for it on that regard, so don't shoot the messenger. Anyways, so what do we got here? We have a story of sexual kind of coming of age, where Nikki Charm is, she's rebellious. She doesn't want to do with what her father tells her. She wants to do her own thing. She's on the phone with her friend, played by Sheri St. Clair, and her friend is telling her about this great kind of sex that she had with Tom Byron, who's also in the film, of course. And what I've talked about before, not knowing whether or not this was film or digital, is that if you look at that shot when it pulls back from Sheri and Tom originally, there's something about the zoom that looks so it doesn't look filmic. I can't explain it. People who are smarter than I can put it into words, but it doesn't look like film, and that's why initially I was just like, is this a shot on video film? I really don't know. Maybe with a better quality release, we can, or if some other information that I don't know about can be tossed my way, then I'm all for it. But that was one of the big indicators early on that something was going on here. Anyways, they're going at it. They're having a good time, and right off the bat, with the sex in the film, they're doing a lot of ADR over the sex, which is typical. That's always the case if you want to ADR in the moans or anything like that, because if you're having music over it, or you're not gonna, you're cutting so much, it's much easier than trying to record sound and sync it up. But the ADR here was wild, man, because it was like they were improvising the whole thing. I mean, improvising like, okay, you make some crazy sounds, whatever. It was like they were like improvising the dialogue, man. It was like it didn't matter if it matched up to the scene or not. I mean, I swear there's one point you see a dude talking, and the dude's not even talking at all, man. Like, I'm sorry, you hear him talking, you don't even see him talking at all. His mouth ain't even moving. So it's like, all right, whatever they got to do to throw it in to add to the eroticism of it. But yeah, I mean, the way that scene is shot, it's not too bad, but I mean, the problem that I have with so many of these films is that they get so close to the action that, for continuity's sake, it's easier to cut between, I imagine. I mean, because if you have these close-up shots, you can kind of rearrange them in any which way you want to have your own kind of flow of continuity. But as it was, man, I mean, the scenes, they just weren't that interesting. I don't think they were that well shot, truthfully. It wasn't that great. But anyway, she's on the phone with her, and it was cracking me up. She was like, "What? You were having a picnic outside? Then that happened? That's crazy!" And next again, I think in the middle of them having sex, it's like, "Yeah, man." I mean, it's sort of like, "What are you talking about, man?" And she's hanging outside. She got no shirt on, talking on this big ass phone, and we get the idea of just Nikki Charm is somebody who is been sexually unfulfilled. I think they say that she's a virgin at some point. I truthfully don't remember. But so she hears this story about the two of them, and she's like, oh my gosh, and then we start to see other scenarios kind of run through. And this is a film where we're getting different kind of scenes that aren't necessarily connected. I mean, there is a through line through Nikki Charm's character, her kind of imagining these sequences, or possibly being there the way you want to see this film for the most part. I don't want to give away any spoilers or anything like that, but as we go through, we just have a plot that gets thinner and thinner, and sex scenes that get longer and longer. For the most part, they're not poorly shot. Some are better than others. I will say that first scene with Sheri St. Clair and Tom Byron, I think is probably the worst shot of the film. But the scene with Renee Summers and Mark Wallace, I don't think is too bad. She's talking about her sister having sex, and you're like, what is going on here, man? It's sort of like, is this girl been so conditioned and so hidden to the idea of sex that she goes to her family members? I mean, these kinds of movies, they're not trying to have any real kind of psychological impact on what this would do to a person. You're just there for the, no pun intended, taboo aspect of it, of just, oh my gosh. There was something I was watching recently. I forgot what film I was watching, but it was these characters, they were having sex, and it was like this dude and his sister, and the chick was like, "Hey, is that your brother?" She's like, "Yeah, it is." Almost kind of like a silly kind of confession, like, "Oh man, that's just how it goes." And it's just like, what? It's such a. I mean, I'm sure you could probably do a whole probably topic on just just these kind of incest subplots, incest kind of films. I think it was Babyface. Did Alex Dorenzi do that film? I don't even remember. I'm pretty sure he did, which would make sense actually given that subplot. I'm pretty sure it was Babyface. I'll talk about that film at some point on the show. Alex Dorenzi is such an interesting filmmaker. But yeah, so we have these different scenarios with her going along. And Nikki Charm is almost in every sex scene of the film. There's only a couple early on, which understandably she's not in, because she's just imagining these kind of scenarios. But as it goes on, I think one of the things that hurts the film is that when it comes to the narrative being thin is fine. I mean, this is a film like I was talking about with some of the Fred Lincoln films early on. It's a film that's really not concerned with the plot. It's just an excuse to, or it's just a not even an excuse. It's more of just a kind of like a commercial break for the sex scenes. And that's fine. You have different scenarios where she's like imagining things, or she wants this, wants to do that. It's just that I think there would have been better if there was some kind of escalation of this character's sort of sexual discovery, so to speak, where she's hanging out. She really wants to have this kind of lifestyle, but her father is very kind of domineering and doesn't really she's just trying to rebel. But here it doesn't feel like an escalation of like, oh man, now she's doing this, now she's doing this, like, oh, one over the other. It feels like when she does have her first scene with Peter North in the film, it's very. The way it's introduced is very anticlimactic. It's very sudden. It's like, oh, okay, well, now she's having sex in the film now. And then from there, it almost feels like they swapped the scenes out of order, because he has another scene with Sheri St. Clair and David Sanders. And in that scene, some of the ADR, at least I think it was ADR. I don't remember if she actually said the dialogue on screen or not. But she was talking about, oh yeah, your first time, this is what you want, and all this and that. So I felt like that scene almost was out of order. It felt like that should have been the first scene, and then from there she's like, all right, now I want the whole thing. It's sort of like you talk about The Devil and Miss Jones as somebody who's been, sexually repressed, and then from there they are like, oh yeah, I actually discovered this whole part of my lifestyle that I never knew I wanted before until now. This film doesn't really do that. It really kind of just abandons the plot fairly early on, and goes in this direction. Then when you have the incest part of it, that doesn't feel. It feels kind of shoehorned in. Where when they, when you watch something like Taboo, which is, I mean, it's such a cliche to kind of go back to, like, well, in Taboo it's this and that. And that's, if there's ever a film that I think did it the strongest, it would be that. But that's one where there's this tension throughout the film of this, like, are they going to go there? Are they really going to do this? And it builds throughout the film, and it works to then when you get to the third act and you're like, okay, there we go. Here it feels like, less shocking and more just kind of like there's no relationship with these characters. I didn't even realize that they were, related at first. I was just like, oh, okay, I guess, between her sister and her brother, it feels a little haphazardly put together, where it's like, you can say like, oh man, she's having sex with her family, that's crazy. But then when you watch the film, it feels so secondary. And I almost feel like they probably, if they wanted to kind of go in that sort of gonzo direction, to really kind of spend more time with those characters, so that maybe they're off having their own kind of sexual adventures, and then she's the one who is like, oh man, I want to find my own, and oh man, here's this other kind of crazy aspect we can throw into the film, that she's actually interested in her family. Oh my gosh, that could be crazy. We do something with it. You do something with that, because yeah, as it goes along, the in between time gets thinner and thinner. I mean, the only real in between time we get after a certain point is she's like, doing stuff in the yard, but she's completely naked. I mean, she's just hanging out, on by the pool. I think it was by the pool. She's like on this chair and she's completely naked. And her brother shows up and it's like, oh my gosh, she's completely naked. I'm so attracted to you. It's like, oh my gosh, what is going on in this crazy household? This is a damn haunted house that people are living in because people are having sex with each other. Oh my goodness gracious. Nice location though. I don't know where. I mean, there's some great exterior shots where there's like a lot. There's like a looking over like almost a mountainside in a way. I can't even try to explain it. I mean, it looks like the same set. They just did it before. I think that's the same set that they used early on with Sheri St. Clair and Tom Byron. I mean, it looks like just the same exact thing, which is fine. I mean, it's probably a case where they just had this one kind of, exotic kind of place, and they're like, okay, we can film there and do the thing there. But otherwise, they don't really delve too much from that. They basically stay around there, and even the interiors, they really don't do a lot of. I'd be curious if they even filmed the stuff on the couch in that house or not. Because, I mean, it looks like a pretty big living room, but you figure that if they actually had access to the interiors, if they wouldn't have utilized more of it, because it's a really nice looking house. But then to cut back with it just being her on this couch, it's like, okay, this was probably filmed in someone else's house. But I really have no idea. Truthfully, I really don't know much about the production of the movie. As it's going along, if you're looking solely just for the eroticism, then it's there. I mean, it's pretty consistent. It's very light on plot. I mean, even when it comes to the incest stuff, if that's what you're looking for, if you're looking for that idea of just like something really kind of crazy and wild, I don't think this would really do it for you because it feels so secondary and it feels so... I don't even want to say like thrown in. Well, okay, I do want to say thrown in. I want to say it feels so kind of like last second where it's like, okay, well, we need something to kind of sell this movie. Okay, well, here we go. We have this aspect of it, and it's like this will draw in people. This will draw in curiosities. Because then when you get to the stuff with Paul Thomas, I mean, I think that's some of the strongest stuff in the movie. I think Paul Thomas is just a really solid actor. I mean, honestly, it is a good cast. And the fact that Nikki Charm was able to kind of hold her own against these superstars of the time, these really solid actors, is really kind of a testament to her as an actress as is. But I was laughing because you have this part at the end with Paul Thomas and her, and she's completely naked, and they're starting to get intimate, and you're like, oh my gosh, what? The whole family's in on it now. The Ma's not there. I don't even know if the Ma's even in the movie at all. I don't remember her at all. But Paul Thomas succumbs to his ways, and he's like fondling his daughter, and he's like, oh no, we can't do this, man. We can't. And I'm like, man, I think it's a little late for that, man. Sort of like he's already done the whole, like he's already like just fondling over his daughter, and then he's like, oh, we can't do this actually. It's like, brother, I feel like you should have probably taken a couple steps back before you said that, because maybe don't get on the couch with her, because the work definitely ain't getting done now. I mean, if you're concerned about the house being a mess before, good lord, he ain't getting done now. Oh my gosh, man. As it is, I mean, I don't want to just dog on the movie, but man, I was not terribly interested in this one. I thought it really kind of meandered at times. The sex, it ranges in quality with the way it's filmed. It just does too much of the close-up. That's such a problem that I have with so many of these films. The close-ups, I think, are just so... they're just, I mean, to each their own. I don't want to say unerotic because it's going to appeal to different people, but to me, I just don't find any of that stuff too terribly interesting. And actually, one of the things I wanted to mention before is that when she actually starts getting intimate with her sister didn't even really seem to care. She's just like, oh, okay. It was very strange. It's like, what is going on in this house? I mean, there's something deeply psychological going on in this house, man. If all these people, or I should say, at least the brother and sister, are very ambivalent about the fact that their sister wants to have sex with them. I don't get it, man. Paul Thomas was the only one for a little bit. It seemed to be the most like, hey, man, what is going on here? And then eventually he's like, well, all right, But yeah, as it is, if you're not, I don't want to just like, talk bad about the movie because I don't even think it's that bad. But it's just, man, I just really wasn't crazy about this one. It just, like I said before, it just meanders too much. The sex goes on for so long, and then the in between stuff. I think because Nikki Charm is such a good lead here, and no pun intended, is so charming, and you have a good cast here, that I wanted to just get back to those kind of characters and see what they're up to. The fact of the matter is, I think these scenes just go on a little bit too long. The score I do think is good. There's actually a song early on during the first sex scene that sounded like Tarzan Boy by Baltimora, which made me laugh. But ultimately, this didn't really do much for me. I wasn't really crazy about this one. Recommended if... I mean, there's not enough for the performances. There's not enough from the actors in this to really justify it for the performance's sake. If you're a fan of Nikki Charm, I think this is a good start. This is a good place to start. Or this is a good place to kind of see where she started out, I should say, because I really have nothing else to kind of reference this to. But as it is, I really wasn't crazy about this one. Not one of my favorites I reviewed on the show, and for me, I wasn't a fan of it. But hey, what do I know? I'm not young, and I'm not naughty. All right, what can I tell you? I missed a dude with a microphone talking about these damn movies, man. But anyways, with that said, Young and Naughty, 1984. Give it a watch if it sounds up your alley. If you've watched Taboo too many times and you gotta watch something else, then go watch Babyface. But if you've already seen Babyface, then maybe you can check this out as well. I don't know, or The Farmer's Daughter, whatever. Anyways, that'll do it for this episode, guys. Young and Naughty, 1984. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I appreciate you guys listening. Follow the show on Instagram at Peephole_pictures. I think that's the username, actually. I don't know, but I'm sure it'll come up if you search for it. So give it a search. Next, all I got here. The cat's just woken up, so I think the timing is pretty good. So, hey, that's all I got. Thank you guys so much for listening.